This story is titled, My Best Friend Slept with My Girlfriend. Then he mocked me at my birthday saying, She said you're pathetic in bed. So I took my revenge. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Never thought I'd be sharing this here, but my friend said it'll be a Reddit gold, and here we are. Buckle up. It gets wild. So I, 24 male, caught my girlfriend, 23 female, Abby, of 5 years in bed with my best friend on my birthday. Yeah, you read that right. I met Abby during sophomore year of college at this lame campus mixer. She was this hot brunette, killer green eyes, and curves in all the right places. But it wasn't just the looks. She was confident, ambitious, with this laugh that could make anyone smile. She approached me when I was just chilling by the drinks table, a typical IT major in my natural habitat, when she walked straight up and started talking about the band playing. And yup, we clicked immediately. Now my best friend, 24 male, Peter, had been in my life since freshman year when we got paired as roommates. We survived terrible professors, all-nighters, and that one disastrous road trip to Vegas together. The guy was practically my brother. Peter was always the cool one between us. Played guitar, knew how to talk to people, and somehow managed to ace exams without studying. I was the tech nerd who helped him fix his laptop whenever he spilled energy drinks on it, which was like every other week. Classic dynamic. He'd get us invited to parties. I'd make sure we had rides home and didn't end up in jail. When I introduced Peter to Abby, he gave me this nod like he was proud of me for landing this hot girl. The way he scanned her up and down should have been my first red flag. But nah, I was just happy my best friend and girlfriend got along. What a concept, right? Abby was a communications major with a minor in psychology. During our junior year, we all lived in this crappy off-campus house with 2 other guys. Peter's room was right next to ours, with these paper-thin walls that made privacy a joke. When Abby and I started dating, Peter was super supportive, always inviting us both to hang out. Thinking now, maybe a little too supportive. Dude would literally text her memes at 1 a.m. But hey, what do I know? I'm the boyfriend, right? We all graduated together 2 years ago. I landed this entry-level software engineering gig that paid decent money for someone with student loans up to their eyeballs. Peter got this fancy marketing coordinator position at a startup that he wouldn't shut up about. Abby started at a PR firm downtown. Adult life, here we come. The 3 of us still hung out all the time. Movie nights, game nights, weekend trips. We were those annoying 20-somethings who thought we had life figured out because we had actual jobs and could afford name-brand cereal. Peter would always suggest these group activities, and I thought it was cool that he made the effort. Turns out he was just looking for excuses to be around my girlfriend. The ultimate third wheel who was actually the main character in his own mind. Gotta mention, our friend group included a girl named Sloane. This becomes important later. This absolute smoke show, who Peter had been crushing on since freshman orientation. Girl's the type who doesn't even know how hot she is. Smart, funny, and somehow managed to make sweatpants look like runway fashion. Abby hated her. Would get all weird whenever Sloane was around, checking what I was looking at, suddenly needing to sit in my lap. I thought it was cute at the time. Thought she's overprotective. In a cute way, you know. Girls get jealous sometimes. That's what I told myself. However, red flags started piling up about 6 months ago. I started noticing weird stuff. Abby was always on her phone, smiling at texts, but turning the screen away if I walked near. She and Peter suddenly had all these inside jokes I wasn't part of. If I mentioned feeling weird about it, I'd get hit with the classic, "Don't be so insecure, we're just friends." Gaslighting. I ignored the signs because I trusted them both completely. I mean, come on. We were a freaking gang. But then Abby started working late at least twice a week. Peter suddenly had all these networking events that he couldn't explain properly. They'd both show up to group hangouts separately, but leave at the same time. My buddy Chris tried to warn me. He saw through the BS, saw them once at a restaurant together while I was at work. Nothing harmful, but he told me they looked too comfortable. I convinced myself it was an innocent lunch between friends. So the week before my birthday, things got weird. Abby suggested we take a break. We'd been talking about moving to a better apartment, maybe getting a dog. Suddenly, she wasn't sure about limiting her options. It didn't make sense. Then we had this big fight where she accused me of suffocating her with expectations. I remember telling my mom how stressed Abby seemed, and Mom suggested I plan something special for my birthday to reconnect. I decided to cook a nice dinner and picked up ingredients for it. So on my 24th birthday, I planned a small gathering at my apartment. Some friends, pizza, and whatever games we could play. I'd been looking forward to it all week. Work had been brutal with this new project deadline, and I just wanted one day where I didn't have to think about code or bugs or my increasingly distant girlfriend. I took a half day off work to set things up, stopped by the store to grab drinks and snacks. The plan was to clean up, set up the new PlayStation 5 I'd saved up for months to buy, and maybe even have some alone time with Abby before everyone arrived. Driving home, I was mentally running through my checklist when my phone buzzed. Text from Peter. Happy birthday, man! See you tonight! I remember smiling at that. If only I knew what kind of present he was giving me. I pulled into my apartment complex and noticed Peter's car was already there. Weird. We weren't supposed to meet up until later. I figured maybe he came early to help set up or drop off a gift. But I'll give him credit for one thing. The guy had balls the size of planets. When I got to my door, I could hear music playing inside. Low volume, but definitely there. Abby had mentioned an important client meeting that morning, but maybe she'd wrapped up early to surprise me. For a split second, I felt guilty for doubting her these past few weeks. Maybe I was just being paranoid after all. So I unlocked the door as quietly as possible. The living room was empty. Kitchen too. But I heard voices coming from our bedroom. Then I heard it. That laugh. That specific laugh Abby does when she's flirting. The one that used to be reserved for me. I walked toward the bedroom door. Stood outside the door for what felt like forever. Heard Abby whisper something, then Peter's low chuckle. Then came the unmistakable sounds. My stomach dropped somewhere around my ankles. I wanted to throw up. Instead, I pushed the door open. And there they were. In my bed, on my freaking birthday. Not just sitting there having a conversation. No, they were full-on making out. I just stood there, frozen, unable to process the hell was going on. Abby scrambled to cover herself, while Peter just laid there with this smug look on his face. He didn't even try to move or cover up, just stretched out in my bed like he owned the place. Hey man, awkward timing, Peter said, laughing, like he'd just been caught stealing the last slice of pizza. Not banging my girlfriend. Abby looked annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. Nick, this isn't, it wasn't supposed to be this way. How long? I cut her off. Peter sat up, still not covering himself. Oh, about 3 months officially. But we've been vibing for way longer. Actually wanted to surprise you with the cake, but you ruined it. Vibing? Yeah, man, we were gonna tell you. He looked at Abby with that smirk. She said you're pathetic in bed, by the way. All that gaming and no practice, huh? They both laughed. That was it. Something snapped. I lunged forward, grabbed Peter by his throat and yanked him off the bed. He hit the floor hard. Before he could react, punched him right in the face. 5 years of friendship. And that's what I get? Nick, OMG, stop! Abby screamed, but I was already landing another punch. Peter tried to fight back, but he was naked and disoriented. I got in 2 more solid hits before shoving him back down. That's for 5 years of friendship, bro, I spat, standing over him. You're fing crazy, he yelled, scrambling backward. What is wrong with you? People get cheated on, dude, deal with it. I just looked at them both, nodded, and walked out, ignoring Abby's calls after me. As I drove, random memories kept flashing through my mind. Every sign I ignored. But the weird thing? I wasn't even sad, just felt hollow. Every memory of the past 3 years was suddenly suspect. Every I love you potentially fake. Had she ever really cared about me at all? Or was I just a reliable backup plan? I was pissed. And hell, I had a plan. So after the initial what the actual F moment passed, my thoughts didn't go where most people probably would. Instead of just rage or heartbreak, my brain immediately jumped to Peter's precious business deal. Why? A few reasons. First, Peter wouldn't shut up about this deal. Second, revenge clarity. Third, I'd been around Peter long enough to know how he operated. This guy cut corners everywhere. In college, he'd cheat on exams while lecturing everyone else about academic integrity. He'd borrow money and conveniently forget to pay it back. He was always working some angle. So when I was racing for ways to hit back, I just knew instinctively that there would be something shady about this deal. Peter couldn't help himself. He always had to game the system. So, as I said, Peter's startup had just signed a massive deal with a tech company. Not just any deal. We're talking about a 7-figure contract that could make or break his company. This was their biggest client ever, and Peter had been insufferable about it for weeks. How did I know about it? Pure coincidence? My current boss at my software engineering job used to work at that tech company, and he still had connections there. He'd actually mentioned to me a few weeks back that his former company was signing with some hotshot marketing startup, and I realized it was Peter's when he wouldn't shut up about it at our last guy's night out. Peter had been parading around like he was some kind of prodigy, telling everyone how he was the youngest marketing lead on a seven-figure project and how the client specifically requested to work with him. He kept going on about how his boss trusted him completely with this account. What Peter didn't realize was that this information would become very useful to me very soon. The client was particularly strict about professionalism and ethics, something my boss had mentioned casually, but I needed proof. I started thinking, then something crossed my mind. I remembered something crucial. About 6 months earlier, Abby had been constantly complaining about running out of phone storage. She took endless photos and videos, but never deleted anything. As a solution, I'd set up a shared family cloud account for us. It was cheaper than her buying more storage on her own, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. I'd even shown her how to access it and manage her backups. But here's the thing. She never really paid attention when I explained the technical details. Classic Abby move. She'd nod along while scrolling through Instagram, then later claim I never showed her how to use it. So while she knew her photos were backing up somewhere, she had no idea that I could access everything that synced to our shared account. This meant her phone had been automatically backing up not just photos, but messages, documents, and app data to our shared cloud storage. Everything. And she had no clue at all. When this realization hit me, it was like finding a key to a room full of evidence. Technology. 1. Cheaters. 0. I spent the night in my car outside a 24-hour Walmart. Peak adulting, I know. Just scrolling through 3 months of messages between them made me physically sick. The pet names, the planning, the jokes at my expense, screenshots of my texts to her that they laughed about together, plans for weekends when I thought she was visiting her sister, hotel receipts Peter had forwarded to her with winky faces. By morning, I had missed calls, 28 from Abby, 15 from Peter. Their panic was almost cute. The timestamps showed they'd started calling about an hour after I left, probably finished their session first. I didn't bother. Instead, I kept going through their message history when I noticed something wild. Peter had been forwarding work emails to Abby. This idiot was using his company email for their little affair. But here's where it gets good. See, while scrolling through their messages, I found actual proof that Peter was scamming his company and clients. Dude was literally bragging to Abby about how he was ripping people off. He'd write stuff like, "These tech guys are such suckers. They never check the analytics," and "just bump their budget 30% for no reason, lol. Vegas weekend, here we come." Oh yeah, that professional development conference Abby supposedly attended? That was their weekend getaway funded by Peter's scamming. What an absolute tool. So instead of answering their panic calls, I just texted Peter, "Check your email." Then I sent screenshots of their messages to his boss, HR, and that big client he was always bragging about. Not just the cheating stuff, but all the evidence of him bragging about overcharging clients and faking reports. Dude literally incriminated himself in company emails he forwarded to my girlfriend. It was like they wanted to get caught. After hitting send, I drove to a diner, ordered the biggest breakfast they had, and waited. Call it petty, but I wanted to be doing something normal when their worlds collapsed. I was halfway through my pancakes when the first text from Peter came through. "What the duck did you do?" I didn't respond. Just kept eating and watched the messages pour in. "Answer your phone." "This isn't funny, Nick. Wait, how the hell did you even get these? Please, let's talk. You're making a big mistake, bro." Each message is more desperate than the last. I finished my breakfast and drove to a coffee shop with free Wi-Fi. Set up my laptop and did something productive, looking for a new apartment. No way was I staying in a place where I'd have those mental images every time I walked into my bedroom. 48 hours passed on that and holy crap, things escalated fast after sending that email. I went back to my apartment when both would be at work, packed some of my essential stuff. Before I left, I took one last look around the apartment we'd shared for years. So many memories, now all tainted. Then my phone blew up while I was driving away. Peter had been called into an emergency meeting with HR, his boss, and client reps. The messages weren't just inappropriate. They showed him bragging about overcharging the client, cutting corners, and planning to milk them dry before moving to a competitor. That client pulled their massive contract on the spot. By 4 p.m., Peter was doing the cardboard box walk of shame out of the building. "Guess that corner office didn't work out after all, huh, buddy?" I didn't respond to his desperate texts, just drove to the new apartment. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt something close to peace. They had humiliated me in the most personal way possible. Now they were going to pay for it. I took a long shower and slept for 12 hours straight, The next day, I'd have to deal with Abby, but I'd won round one. So Abby started spamming me. What did you do? Peter just got fired because of you. This is insane. You can't ruin someone's career over a stupid mistake. Answer your phone, Nick. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my landlord and explained the situation, minus the gory details. The guy was surprisingly understanding when I said I needed to break my lease due to relationship issues. Around 7 p.m., the text started again. Abby first. Nick, please, can we talk about this like adults? I know you're hurt, but this isn't the way to handle it. Like adults? Like adults? The irony of her suggesting we handle things maturely after what they did made me laugh. I'd caught them in my bed, on my birthday, and they'd laughed about it. But sure, I was the one being immature. Peter's messages were less diplomatic. You had no right to bring my work into this. This was between us. As if betraying your friend was some kind of interpersonal dispute that should be settled privately. I finally responded to him with a single text. Nothing was between us. You made sure of that. Then I blocked him. That night, Peter showed up wasted. Had no idea how he tracked my new place. Pounding on my door and screaming about how I'd ruined his life. My neighbor's Ring doorbell caught everything. Him threatening to end me before passing out in the hallway until cops came. That video equals instant restraining order. Pro tip, don't threaten someone's life on camera. They teach that in Marketing 101, right? I wasn't even there to witness it. My neighbor, this cool older guy, texted me about it. Your drunk friend is making a scene. Should I call the cops? I told him I wasn't home and that Peter definitely wasn't my friend. So old Frank handled it from there. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the cherry on top? That birthday cake I forgot to cancel got delivered to my workplace. My coworkers, clueless about the drama, brought it out during our morning meeting. Instead of happy birthday to the best boyfriend ever, it said, I'm leaving you for Peter. Sorry. Yeah, Abby had changed the message, planning to dump me at work on my birthday. Picture 10 engineers suddenly going dead silent as they stared at that cake. My boss saw it, ended the meeting, and gave me the week off after I explained everything. As I was leaving, Peter's former boss requested a LinkedIn meeting. They wanted to know if I had more information about client mismanagement. Turns out Mr. Marketing Genius had been cutting corners everywhere. I agreed to the meeting, but made it clear I wasn't interested in a vendetta, just sharing information they should know. Apparently, Peter had been falsifying reports for months, claiming marketing successes that never happened, and taking credit for campaigns he barely worked on. His boss seemed pissed, lol. Abby showed up at my place crying that night saying, we could work through this. I just spoke through the Ring camera. Get away. I don't want to hear a thing. Nick, please, if you just listen for 5 minutes. What we had was real. Peter was a mistake. I cut her off. Which time was the mistake, Abby? She started crying harder. Real tears or performance art, I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't mean those things I said about you. I was just trying to impress Peter. I was stupid. Well, now you can impress him as much as you want. Don't come here again. I ended the call feeling calm. 3 days ago, the sight of her tears would have destroyed me. Now they barely registered. 1 week post-explosion, and I'm still putting pieces together. The meeting with Peter's ex-boss was eye-opening. Dude hadn't just been scamming that one client, he'd been doing it for years. Taking kickbacks, inflating expenses, stealing ideas from junior employees. The company is pressing charges for fraud. Turns out his youngest marketing lead title was because nobody with actual experience would pull the shady stuff he was doing. The meeting happened at this fancy coffee shop downtown. Apparently, Peter had been running what amounted to a small-scale embezzlement operation. He'd create fake vendor invoices, get them approved, then split the payments with friends who posed as contractors. Classic scam, just executed by someone arrogant enough to document it all in company emails. The whole time, I kept thinking about how Peter had lectured me about lacking ambition when I chose my stable tech job over startup life. How he'd brag about his hustle and making moves. Turns out his moves were just straight-up criminal. After his wasted meltdown at my place, Peter went to Abby expecting sympathy. She wouldn't let him in. According to our mutual friend Chris, who's been keeping me updated even though I didn't ask, Peter accused her of ruining his life and not being worth the trouble. His revenge? Sending screenshots of their conversations to her PR firm, which has a strict morality clause. The screenshots showed her discussing confidential client info, huge ethics violation, and planning to fake sick days for their weekend trips. Abby got suspended pending investigation. Karma working overtime. Not so PR-friendly after all. Chris filled me in over lunch, clearly enjoying the drama while trying to act sympathetic. Dude, he showed up at her place around midnight, completely wasted, yelling about how you'd ruined his life and how she needed to fix it. When she wouldn't let him in, he started cursing, threatening to tell everyone what she's really like. Apparently, Peter had saved every compromising text and photo Abby had sent him. Not just the personal stuff, but work-related messages where she'd shared confidential client information to impress him with her insider knowledge. He compiled it all into one email and sent it to her entire management team with the subject line, "Your employee's ethics." Her boss called her in the next morning and put her on immediate suspension, Chris said. They're doing a full investigation now. She could lose her license to practice. So these two idiots had imploded their own lives without any further help from me. Their betrayal had set off a chain reaction that exposed all their other lies and deceptions. Almost poetic in a messed up way. And I was just enjoying the show of their self-destruction. But wait, things get better. Remember Sloane from college? The smoking hot chick? Peter's longtime crush, who he never had the guts to ask out? We ran into each other last week. I was in the produce section, mindlessly squeezing avocados to check for ripeness, as if I actually knew what I was doing, when I heard someone call my name. I turned around and there was Sloane, looking like she'd just stepped out of an Instagram post, even in workout clothes with no makeup. "Nick? Oh my God. I thought that was you." She gave me this quick hug before I could even respond. "How are you doing?" I heard about everything. Apparently, news of our dramatic breakup had made its way through our extended friend circle. Sloane had gotten the full story from her roommate who dated Chris's brother. Small world, especially when salacious gossip is involved. We ended up talking for nearly an hour, first between the avocados and tomatoes, then eventually moving to the coffee shop next door when an employee gave us the stink eye for blocking the produce section. Sloane filled me in on her life since graduation, working as a physical therapist, just out of a long-term relationship herself, training for a half marathon. "I always thought something was off with them," she admitted. "Abby used to give me these weird looks whenever I talked to you, and Peter would get super strange if I mentioned dating anyone." Turns out, Abby had spent our entire relationship trying to keep me away from Sloane. Any group event where Sloane was invited, Abby would suddenly have a headache or an early morning. She'd even told mutual friends that Sloane had tried to hit on me at a party. Completely fabricated. We exchanged numbers, purely as friends. Or so I told myself. Completely settled to my new place, which is closer to work with better security. No coincidence there. Then out of nowhere, I get a call from Abby's mom. She actually called to apologize. "Nick, it's Carol, Abby's mother," she said when I picked up. "I wanted to thank you for sending her documents and photos. That was very decent of you. In the old apartment, Abby didn't show up to take the rest of her stuff when I broke the lease, so I mailed the important stuff to her parents, only because I respected them." There was an awkward pause before she continued. "I also wanted to say how sorry I am about what happened. This is," she hesitated, "well, very messed up. And the most satisfying moment? Our friend group had planned a camping trip. Got a text from Chris. Trip canceled. Nobody wants to go with Peter after what he did. We've got your back." They tried creating a new group chat without me to salvage the trip. Everyone left that chat too. Loyal friends are apparently a thing that still exists. Who knew? And the strangest development, Peter's former company offered me a job during their investigation. They were impressed by my attention to detail and integrity. Considering it, though working where he used to seems weird, but maybe fitting, the salary's almost double what I make now, so there's that. Nothing heals wounds like a fat paycheck and karma standing by your side, am I right? The offer came via email from the boss, with the subject line, "Turning lemons into lemonade." "We need someone who understands both the technical side and has the integrity to help us implement better security protocols," he wrote. "Your handling of a difficult personal situation showed character. We could use more of that." The position would be Senior Systems Analyst, a serious step up from my current role. More responsibility, better benefits, and yes, nearly double my current salary. That was a double G for me. Edit. Thanks for all the awards and comments, folks. For those asking for an update, a wild one is coming soon, so stay tuned. Life has a funny way to twist things. Update. Hey Reddit. It's been a while, and I'm back with a wild update. So buckle up. To refresh your memories, I'm the guy who caught his girlfriend and best friend in bed together. And I took revenge minimum effort. So it's been 3 months post-birthday disaster, and things have finally settled. The professional fallout. Peter is facing serious legal consequences. What started as a workplace investigation became criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, and corporate espionage. Dude had been selling company info to competitors for years. The FBI got involved. That escalated quickly. from marketing coordinator to potential inmate in less than a year. Apparently, Peter had been downloading proprietary marketing strategies and client lists, then selling them to competitor agencies. Not just snippets of information, but entire campaigns, contact lists, and pricing structures. When the investigators searched his laptop, seized during the fraud investigation, they found encrypted folders with data from at least 3 different companies he'd worked for. I also took the job at his former company. Felt weird at first, but they've been amazing. Better pay, supportive environment, and I'm doing work I actually care about. My new boss mentioned they've implemented stricter background checks because of what happened. They call it the Peter Rule behind closed doors, LMAO. My legacy is improving corporate America, one cheating ex-friend at a time. And guess what? Got a random text from Peter's mom like 2 weeks ago, apologizing for her son and saying she'd always consider me a positive influence in his life. Harder conversation than expected after knowing his family for over 4 years. She always made the best food at family gatherings. Her text came out of nowhere on a Tuesday afternoon. Nick, it's Peter's mom. I hope it's okay to reach out. I wanted to apologize for Peter's behavior. We raised him better than this. You were always such a good influence, and I'm sorry things ended this way. I always considered you as a son. I sat staring at those words for a long time, unsure how to respond. This woman had treated me like a second son for years. I'd spent holidays at their house, helped her carry groceries, fixed her computer countless times. In some ways, losing Peter's family hurt almost as much as losing him. I finally replied with a simple thank you and assured her she had nothing to apologize for. It wasn't her fault. She asked if we could meet for coffee sometime, and I surprised myself by agreeing. We met at a cafe halfway between our places, and the conversation was awkward but necessary. He's getting professional help now, she said. The legal troubles. They finally made him realize he needs it. I nodded, unsure what to say. I'm not asking you to forgive him, she continued. What he did was unforgivable. I just wanted you to know that the boy you were friends with, he's still in there somewhere, underneath all the bad choices. I didn't have the heart to tell her I wasn't sure that boy had ever existed. Now about Abby. Her PR firm put her on extended probation. She sent a handwritten 8-page apology letter last month. Appreciate the gesture, but some bridges stay burned. I used it as kindling for my new apartment's fireplace. Very therapeutic. She claimed Peter had pursued her relentlessly, made her feel seen in ways I apparently didn't. There were paragraphs about her childhood issues, her fear of commitment, her tendency to sabotage good things. A full psychological self-assessment that might have impressed her therapist, but did nothing for me. My new apartment finally feels like home. Smaller, but more comfortable. Been intentional about buying furniture with zero connection to my previous life. Completely different vibe from the cookie-cutter apartment I'd shared with Abby. I've been slowly furnishing it with stuff that's actually my style, not the generic live, laugh, love aesthetic Abby insisted on. My gaming setup takes center stage in the living room. My collection of sci-fi figurines is proudly displayed on custom shelves. The whole place feels more authentic, more me. But the unexpected plot twist, though? Sloan. What started as casual texting evolved into coffee meetups, then actual hangouts. We've been seeing each other for about a month now. It's different from any relationship I've had. Honest, straightforward, no games. We're taking things slow, building on actual friendship. The fact that it drives Abby absolutely insane, according to mutual friends, is just a bonus I pretend not to enjoy. Speaking of Abby, of course she wouldn't be silent over me and Sloan being together. She lost it, really lost it. The inevitable show happened last Saturday night. Sloan came over to watch the new Marvel show. We ordered food, cracked open some sodas, and were just chilling on the couch when my doorbell rang around 10 p.m. Figured it was the neighbors complaining about the sound, thin walls in the new place. So I wasn't prepared for what happened next. I opened the door, and there stood Abby, looking like she'd been crying and drinking in equal measure. Her makeup was smeared, hair a mess, and she reeked of tequila. Before I could even react, she pushed past me into my apartment. "So this is why you wouldn't answer my calls?" she yelled when she spotted Sloan. "You're screwing her now?" Sloan stood up, looking completely blindsided. "I should probably go." "No, stay," I said, then turned to Abby. "What are you doing here? How did you even find my address?" "Chris told me," she slurred. "I had to see if the rumors were true." She pointed at Sloan. You always planned this, didn't you? Even when I was with him." Sloan shook her head. "That's not true." "Bullshit!" Abby screamed. "You're nothing but a backstabbing slut. And you—" I stepped between them. "That's enough. You need to leave. Now." "Oh, protecting her already?" Abby laughed and sobbed. You never protected me like that. You were always too busy with your stupid coding. Maybe because you were screwing my best friend behind my back. Then she lunged towards Sloane again, but I caught her arm. Touch her, and I'm calling the cops, I said quietly. You're already on probation at work. Want to add assault charges? That seemed to cut through the drunk rage. She yanked her arm away and took a step back, tears streaming down her face. You ruined everything, she whispered. You ruined Peter's life. You ruined my career. I walked to the door and opened it. You need to leave. Now, or I really will call the cops. She stood there for a moment, swaying slightly. Then her face crumpled. I still love you, she whispered. Cut the crap, I said. I'm with Sloane now. There's nothing between me and you anymore. That was the final blow. She stared at me for a long moment, then walked out without another word. I closed the door behind her, half expecting to hear more screaming or pounding, but she just left, defeated. Sloane finally spoke. She's unbelievably crazy. Yeah, sorry about that. So where were we? We sat back down on the couch, continued watching our show, and I realized I hadn't felt this content in years. Maybe ever.